It's one of the hot topics on Wall Street. They are called sovereign wealth funds, and they have plunged tens of billions of dollars into Wall Street firms lately, oftentimes with no strings attached. But given their sheer size, their relative lack of transparency, there is some fear that these funds might start to exert more political clout going forward. And that possibility has certainly grabbed the attention of many money managers as well as many politicians. In the latest CNBC $1 trillion survey, in fact, when asked what the biggest business story of 2007 was and the biggest story of 2008 would be, 42% of money managers said the presidential election, while 23% said foreign investment in the U.S. So, will sovereign funds help or hurt Wall Street? Some opinions from Eli Lehrer at the Competitive Enterprise Institute and Alan Tunnelson with the U.S. Business and Industry Council. Rob Cox at BreakingViews.com joins me as well. Gentlemen, welcome all around.
Thanks,
Pleasure
Sue.
to have you all with us. Let me start with you, if I could, Alan. Help or hurt? And what are your issues with sovereign wealth? Because it seems as though it's here to stay.
I certainly do have major problems, and we all should, with the very distinct possibility that sometime down the road these sovereign wealth funds are going to act politically like the foreign government creatures they are and not financially. But there are some purely financial concerns too, or maybe even broader economic policy concerns. If you believe in free markets, you don't want governments involved in our private financial markets. Since when has that been a recipe for the kind of efficiency that financial markets are supposed to create and to foster? We wouldn't want the U.S. government, quote, bailing out, unquote, big Wall Street financial firms. Why would we want foreign governments to do so? I'm also very worried that lots of these sovereign wealth funds come from countries that are anything but paragons of good corporate governance, and I worry that they are going to steadily import various types of crony capitalism into a Wall Street scene that really doesn't need any more of that right now.
Eli, what about those concerns? We've heard some of that from politicians in Washington, although there are those who say that Wall Street really has no choice, that the only way to get the kind of cash that they need in this particular market event is to go to a sovereign wealth fund. What do you think?
I can't see any potential downside in allowing any sort of foreign investment. This is other companies taking their money and spending it in ways that benefit Americans. It's pretty much that simple. If they do act politically in an aggressive way, if the countries, say, declare war on us, then we have the option of seizing their assets. It actually improves our national security to have these funds in the United States.
Rob?
I simply cannot see a downside.
Rob?
Well, I think one has to ask what the motive of these sovereign wealth funds is. Do you really think it's Alan, as you say, that it's a political, that this is a political tool, or do you think this is actually the profit motive at work? I tend to believe the profit motive here is going to prevail. And the ultimate question,
Rob, I think you don't really know because they're not transparent. And clearly, there are many different kinds of sovereign wealth funds.
Well, they're more
Alan,
transparent
neither are hedge funds.
I don't
But
much care
hedge
what the
funds
motive
are
is.
private investors. Hedge funds are not governments.
Look, we've had a prince from Saudi Arabia has owned 5% of the largest bank in the world for the last 15 years, and I would say he's far less transparent than any investor we've seen, a large investor in any of these companies, and we've seen no problems
there. To
there.
our knowledge, he's not a government, and I certainly don't think you want to see any more of this kind of money coming in, especially as it's coming in not only from Saudi Arabia, not only from various Persian Gulf countries, but from China. I think anybody who wants more Chinese government money in the U.S. economy and the American financial market simply doesn't believe that free markets are the most efficient in the long run, and that's what we should foster.
Eli, is there really a choice? I mean, given what if you put aside investments in a normal market environment, we're talking about an abnormal market environment right now, a market event. And there are those who say that the United States really, and some of the companies that have sought out help from China and others, doesn't have a choice. Is that the case or not, in your opinion?
Of course there's a choice, but if this is the best way for them to get capital, the free market, which my opponent claims to idolize, would dictate that they go wherever they can get it.
Be the free market at work? I just don't see that.
I don't think the U.S. should set up one of these funds, but if other countries want to do it, who cares? It's good for the United States. It's other people sending their tax money to help Americans. That's a good thing.
Go
One
ahead.
other problem that I think, again, we should all have with this is that just as foreign governments are not known for their efficiency, just like the U.S. government is not usually known for it, they have likely bought at the top or near the top of this market. And I worry that infusion of cash now is going to create something of a moral hazard type situation. It seems that lots of folks in these Wall Street banks and financial companies weren't very good at their jobs, and probably the long-term efficiency and growth of the U.S. economy requires that they take even more of a bath than they have so far, and sovereign wealth funds, I think, are interfering with that process.
Okay.
They're not good judges of what good prices are.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen, very
you.
much. Hope you
Thank
both
you.
come back and we'll continue the discussion.
Thanks.
Up next, given the free